Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later, we're going to be talking about gays, guns, and terror lists. But right now, let's talk about delegates and caucuses. Oh, there's some jokes there, but I'm not going for any of them. Ari Armstrong, our good friend from ariarmstrong.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me.
And Randy Corporon, who's done a lot of work, but right now in the role of delegate for the Republican National Convention.
That's right. Busy month ahead.
Busy month. Better you than me, my friend. All right, let's start off with what seems to be this confusing, awful system we have of caucuses, and that Donald Trump, of course, was robbed of his victory here in Colorado by you Cruz people who undermined it in the power system because the caucus system is broken. So let me start over here. Is the caucus system broken? Let's just keep it for presidential nominations first.
No, and you know, it's masterful political theater on the part of Trump because he actually won in the East by losing in Colorado to a large degree because it played into his the system is rigged narrative. Of course, he could only do that by lying about every aspect of our caucus here. And you might remember that there was a big headline at Drudge that said there was no vote in Colorado.
Yeah, no vote in Colorado.
And that was a big surprise to me, having just spent many hours participating in these voting processes. So yeah, I think the caucus is a great system. I don't think it's broken. I think we should keep exactly what we have.
I don't know if it's a great system. I've got some real problems with the caucus system because I don't think it brings a lot of Republicans or Democrats to their party to do it. And if you're not available on the night of your caucuses, then you're not available to move forward to your county assemblies and the state convention and other things. Do you agree with this? Was the caucus system rigged?
Well, certainly.
And of course, you're a Cruz guy. Of course it wasn't rigged. You're the guy who rigged it.
Well, I really think Ari laid it out well because I know how hard I worked to become a delegate. And the idea that if something like that is important to you, you can't plan your schedule around the one night for your local caucus or whatever, then maybe it's not as important to you as you think it was.
But being able to vote for your representative to go forward to state, that you went there and you went to your caucus and said, hey guys, I want to go to state, or I want to go to the county assembly, and then I want to go to state. Vote for me. I'm Randy Corporon, and here is why. And so people, your neighbors and colleagues, got to vote for you, but only on that night. And if a working mom couldn't be there at 7 o'clock, she was denied that vote.
Well, do you like the mail voting system? Get as many ballots out there as possible?
No,
because I personally do not.
No, I love the idea that only men vote. You're right, I've got problems with that as well. But there was a time that there was a vote, though, that you could go out and throughout the day you could drop your ballot someplace, or you could go to a voting place and vote someplace.
But not for delegates. That would have been to make cast a primary vote. And
perhaps, or you know, or even perhaps for delegates. I mean, you can do it in any way.
Can I jump in for 1 second, though? It is true that if you just cannot make that night, for example, the big example for me is if you're in the military and you're literally not in the country. But for most people, it's not like these are surprise events. They just pick a random day and call you that day, right? It's publicized and scheduled well in advance. So almost every party member could participate if they wanted. Now, I do think that there should be a much better effort by the Republican Party to inform the party base of what this is, how do you participate, because I really don't, I mean, I had to make a proactive effort. It wasn't hard to find, but I'd have to make the effort to go and find it. So I think that there could be a better effort by the party to get people involved. And you could even do some sorts of modest reforms, like some absentee ballots. So that's not necessarily contrary to a caucus
What people
system.
are complaining about is that unaffiliateds are not able to cast a vote in this process. And I think we're probably all on the same page. That just drives me nuts. You know, all you need to do is register with a party, and then you can be part of that club, and that's a private organization. Is it not a private organization?
Completely a private organization.
The Democrats are a private organization, the Greens are a private organization, the Libertarians are, Constitutional Party is. They're all
set up entirely to develop and promote candidates and get them elected. So if that is the organization or the ideology or whatever that you align with, then take the time to get involved. It took me 7 years to work my way through meeting Republicans, going to breakfast. I'm a chairman of the Arapaho Tea Party, getting to know the Liberty Movement, all those different pieces. And it all came together in the effort to become a delegate last time. And it took a lot of work. But do we want people who live their lives 364 days a year and then on day 365 decide, okay, I'm going to go choose the presidential nominee or whatever, aren't putting any attention into it at all. That's what the popular vote is for, but we're not set up to be a pure democracy where the popular vote decides everything.
Although, isn't there a case to be made that there should be a primary in the state of Colorado for your party? In other words, there should be a vote where every Republican can cast a ballot, and it's easier that way. Or the caucus system really does that?
Well, let me back up 1 second. It is true officially that parties are private entities. But if you see my handy prop here, this is my Republican primary ballot. Who is it mailed by? Not the Republican Party of Colorado. It was mailed by the state of Colorado on the taxpayer's dime. So I think that there is a fair argument that if taxpayers are funding it, why can't all taxpayers participate? To me, the answer is, well, stop making taxpayers fund it. I think that the Republican Party could talk about moving to a primary system as long as the Republican Party is organizing and financing it. So I think it's a big mistake to have the state funding a primary for political parties.
Why do we fund that, Mr. Lawyer? Why does the state fund elections for a private organization?
I don't have a good answer to that question.
Should it end?
I think it should. I'm with Ari on that as well.
I have a feeling it's going to go exactly the opposite way, and we're going to go back to what we did about 15, 16 years ago, where we paid for private parties to have their primaries.
Yeah, millions of dollars for a primary election like that.
And here's my analogy. If you join the Catholic Church, you don't think that you get to vote for the Pope, right? We all know that this is this very hierarchical system with the smokestacks and all this stuff. And certainly people who aren't even affiliated with the Catholic Party don't get to participate in this election of the Pope because it's a private organization. Now, it's quasi-governmental in Europe, but not in the United States. So similarly, I think that political parties in the United States are private organizations. If you want to participate in this organization, join it and do what Mr. Corporon did and what I did.
And if you're a member of a party, you can run for a seat in that party. You can be part of their central committee. You can change the rules. You can do anything you want as a private party.
Exactly.
Right, I want to save a little time for what I think is a fascinating issue that you're bringing up, because you won one of these coveted seats to go to Cleveland in July to watch Donald Trump become our nominee. Yeah. I was part of this. I actually ran as a delegate. I wanted to run and vote against Donald Trump. I wasn't willing to do what you did, which was sign in your blood to Ted Cruz. But the Cruz guys did an incredible job working the system, and overwhelmingly Cruz got pledged delegates. Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, absolutely. Personally pledged. No legal binding involved at all. But it was grassroots politics as an art form. The phone calls we were making every night, the emails and information that was going around. This was a well put together effort that started over a year ago.
And I can attest to this as a guy who ran. What the Cruz people did is they put together the official Cruz slate in each one of their separate, in all 7 congressional districts, and then at state. And more than anything else, that official Cruz slate that people were floating around is what people filled out. I have no doubt that the people who were involved in all these processes overwhelmingly wanted Cruz. You know, that's the way that worked.
And there was no effort from the Trump campaign to organize anything.
He didn't even show.
Not at all. He didn't show personally. People showed up at the different levels of caucus and conventions, the congressionals and the state, but there was no organization put together to try and get them some of those delegates.
You're going to Cleveland. You are pledged personally to Cruz. There are a lot of people who are pledged to Trump because that's the way that their primary says, you guys are delegates, you will vote. You're arguing that they're not actually pledged. Explain that.
Yeah, and I encourage people to use the hashtag #FreeTheDelegates or go to freethedelegates.com to get more information. But the Republican Party has been around for 166 years. And out of all the conventions that have occurred during that period, there's only been one where delegates were bound. The rules of the convention are structured to allow the delegates to exercise their own personal judgment, vote their conscience, and they've been that way for 166 years. Only for the 1976 election, where Gerald Ford, as an incumbent president, managed to stop the insurgent Ronald Reagan, has it been different than that. And so any rules that are in place right now go away at for 2016, because each convention starts by creating its own rules for that convention.
So, is there going to be an effort to dump Trump at the convention through this technique, saying, you guys who are pledged to Trump, you're not really pledged to Trump?
Yeah, a few days ago we had a national call that had about 50 people on it. Last Sunday we had 1,000 people. They're needing a bigger bridge for the next call. We expect 4,000 or 5,000 people to be on that call. And the whole point, the momentum that's building for this month, is to get the word out to delegates that, look, if your conscience says vote for Trump, please do. That's what we're encouraging. Everybody should do what they think is right. But you are not bound by any state law, by any party rule, to vote at the National Convention, unless the Rules Committee binds us somehow with the new 2016 rules.
Same thing true for the Democrats? Is there a possibility that Bernie can do the same?
I'm afraid these arcane rules are beyond my knowledge, but you know,
do the Democrats have rules? I'm not sure about that.
Their big deal is the superdelegates, right? So the Democratic Party has the least democratic sort of system. So
Which,
I don't know.
You know, when you think about it, really helps Bernie explain the point that this system is rigged. You know, he's won in Colorado, he's won in so many states, but he's not getting the delegates because of the superdelegates. Here in Colorado, the biggest superdelegate, Hickenlooper, who I think wants to be a VP, hopefully, or a cabinet member, hopefully, who knows what he wants, he's sticking with Hillary even though his party came out for Bernie.
I think it might actually make sense for the Republicans to do something more like that, because you just build in sort of a buffer against the flash in the pan demagogues, which is what I think we're seeing here. Just a thought.
Well, and that is the whole point of actually having delegates, not going off a popular vote that happened 2 months ago or 4 months ago in some other state, because a lot has happened since then. Donald Trump promised to fund his own campaign. Now he hasn't raised any kind of money at all to even have a national campaign. And for people who are wondering, can this really be true? There have been 10 presidential nominations in the Republican conventions where the frontrunner did not become the nominee. And in 7 of those 10, the frontrunner didn't become the nominee. The last one of those was Dwight Eisenhower, who was not the frontrunner going into that convention. Turned out to be a pretty decent president.
Real fast, people want to get more information about your plan. Where do they go?
Hashtag is #FreeTheDelegates. And the website and Facebook page are also called Free the Delegates.
People want to go to, I don't know, ariarmstrong.com. Where might they go?
Yeah, that would be it. And there is an article on there explaining why I think we should have separation of party and state.
Randy, thank you. Thank you. Stay tuned.